Welcome to another edition of Behind the Curtain with Jack Burkman. We're talking all things Syria. As you might guess, we're very pleased to be joined by Farah Atassi, a member of the Syrian opposition, one of the big leaders of the Syrian opposition, has been in Syria, been on the ground, and been hunted by Assad. Can you believe it? Are you being hunted by him here in the U.S.?
Yeah, of course, we have our worries right here because it's not only he has his own people in the United States.
Does he have killers in the U.S.? Are there assassins, snipers in the U.S.?
There have been some incidents in Canada and even here in the United States that the FBI is looking at. And also he has his allies, the militia of Hezbollah. And
Do you know anybody in the Syrian opposition who's been shot or killed in the U.S.?
Not in the U.S., no.
Canada?
One was being hurt, yeah, and one was shot in Canada.
And you think Assad did it?
We know that Assad did it.
You know that Assad did it?
Yeah, of course Assad
Do we have a name? Do we have a name for this person?
I can't disclose the name right now because it's under the FBI.
All right. Now, we've got, nonetheless, you've got breaking news for us. Assad, this is not out on cable news. It's not out anywhere on the internet, but we've got breaking news here today. Assad has hit some dams. He's done some more terrible destruction. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, thank you so much for raising this extremely important point because just yesterday we're getting a lot of urgent calls from the freedom fighters and from the Syrian political leaders inside Syria warning that the Assad regime since 2 days ago has been bombing the largest water dam in Syria called Al-Furat Dams. And that's...
Furat Dams. It's the Furat Dam.
Furat Dams, right. And then, correct. And then that...
Now, one question. So he's hit with planes that have done this or shells or how's he hit the dams?
It's shells and also bombs on the infrastructure.
Artillery, so it's been an artillery attack?
Exactly. And that will, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of hectares of the farms and villages surrounding that dams are in danger of being flooded. And this is another, warning coming also from the freedom fighters and the rebels, besides the issue about the chemical weapons that have been, and the debate that's been going on in the whole United States about the use of chemical weapons on a larger scale. As well, we reported another use of a smaller scale of chemical weapons in Aleppo, in the northern parts of Syria.
That's not been reported in the news.
It's not been reported in the news, and there have been those reports, we've been feeding them to the officials and the U.S. administration and the intelligence that they are working on the chemical weapons file. But this has happened after August massacre that happened in Al-Ghouta.
Do we have any knowledge that Assad has any tactical nuclear weapons? Do you have any kind of tactical nuclear weapon?
You heard Secretary Kerry and other U.S. officials and also the whole international riddle talking that Assad regime has the largest arsenal of chemical weapons inside Syria, and the regime did not deny it.
Chemical, we know. Any tactical nuclear, any kind?
I cannot confirm that, because
you suspect it. You think he does?
He's a great ally. He's a strongest ally to Iran, and Iran they do have. So we suspect maybe they do have, but we don't have a confirmed report about tactical nuclear.
You know what's on the ground in Syria. You know I oppose this. I presume you oppose a U.S. airstrike. Do you support what Obama's about to do, or do you oppose it? What do you want? What do you want Obama?
Of course, first, we as an opposition group, we respect President Obama's decision to go back to the Congress and consult with the legislative body, because this is the kind of democracy the Syrian people fighting for. But yes, we've been calling from day one that we wanted the U.S. leadership. The United States in action left a vacuum in Syria, and other nations, government like the Russian, the Iranian, fill that gap.
So you want you want Obama to bomb them. You want him to hit it.
Not only that, we want Obama to hold the regime responsible for not only using unconventional weapon, but also for using conventional weapon, not just the unconventional weapon like the CW, but also he's using, remember, we're talking about 180 Syrian victims the last 2 years, not only the massacres.
When there's a common belief in the U.S., this is Washington's belief, the East Coast in the U.S., we believe that if Obama does this airstrike, Syria will be destabilized. There will be some kind of civil war will ensue. Could bring in the Iranians, could bring the Russians back into the Mideast. Can your group, assuming Obama does this and he whacks Assad, whatever they're going to do, can your group take the country over? Does your group have the power to take over the country and run the country? Or would this break apart into 100 little groups.
No, absolutely. The Syrian opposition, composed of so many Syrian factors that they are working inside and outside Syria, are ready to take over when the Assad regime either step down and leave, or either he will be, somehow, affected by the strike or fall down by
so your
any
group
military
can take
strikes.
over. Your group's ready to take over.
Remember, the Syrian freedom fighter and the Free Syrian Army are defected officers. We have defected officials from the Syrian regime who are with the revolution and fighting with the revolution. And we said it from the beginning that the transitional period, it will be with the collaboration of all Syrian forces, including those with the regime that they did not commit crimes against Syrian people.
All right. Do we know of any Iranian troop movements? Is there any massing of Iranian troops near the Syrian border that U.S. media is not reporting? Do you know of any Iranian military activity getting ready for something?
The whole world watched the militia of Hezbollah, who is the arm of the Iran Revolutionary Guard, invaded a whole village in Homs, Syria, called Al-Qusayr. They are represented by the Lebanese parliament, and they are designated in the United States and elsewhere as terrorist group. And here they are, their forces went inside Syria, killed Syrian people, invaded a whole city, and raised their flags on a Syrian soil. And we know very well that this Iranian Revolutionary Guard is providing the regime with the intelligence support, with the logical supports, with boots on the ground, fighting alongside with Syrian forces, and they've been captured by many Free Syrian Army commanders. Not only that, according to the Syrian news agency, that's the Syrian regime news agency, they reported that the Iranian government is aiding the regime, the Syrian regime, $500 million a month to keep him alive. $500 million a month with military aid. But remember, the Iraqi government, the Iraqi Maliki, did not deny that there been shipment of weapons and of forces going to Syria, and they say that we cannot control
$500 million a month. That's $6 billion a year. Farah Atassi, thank you so much. Pleasure. What a great pleasure to have you here. We wish you luck in your cause.
Thank you.
That does it for another edition of Behind the Curtain. We'll see you next week.